time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day to join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
They're very disruptive. They do a really good job of rushing four guys. They can get to the quarterback with four guys rushing. They're going to do a good job of attacking your protections to get in some one-on-one matchups, which you've got to be careful with.
Attack you vertically, and then they've got a good running back, a couple good running backs, and then the quarterback can really fly. Tough guy, very physical, excellent quickness and speed.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It is the Friday night before we get into it all. The college football season, for the most part, begins all across the country, all across the state tomorrow. Your last chance to join us here tonight on Sports Talk and share your thoughts about how, well, really, the Gamecocks are going to do. I think everybody is of a mind that Clemson should win and should win handily against Kent State. But I think Tiger fans are going to be a little bit on edge just to see how well their new quarterback, Kelly Bryant, plays tomorrow, if he is calm and confident and really sharp. Good to be with you. We've got so much to talk about. High school football, the college football scene, NFL wrapped up preseason last night. And so we've got racing at Darlington as well. We're going to touch on all that with you tonight. The phone number is 800-956-7266. And our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Again, the number, 800-956-7266. A quick take from you on USC-NC State here in the final hours as we head towards the kickoff. Do you think the Gamecocks will win? Do you think NC State will cover and come away with the victory? How do you think the game is going to be played out? Phil Kornbluth here on location, away from the guys back in Columbia. We have Will Pelagic, and we have the Professor Tom Hayes, and we're going to go over our picks for this weekend as well. We also have Lee Sterling coming up. Lee is back with us for another year as he gives us some professional help. And we have the football filibuster for you again this year. We do have Governor Jim Hodges coming back once again. It's his baby, hoping to redeem himself from an offseason last year. He has sent away his nemesis from the past couple of years, David Beasley. He has been sent on assignment by the government somewhere. We will have the Attorney General of the state of South Carolina, Alan Wilson, in this year to go head-to-head against the governor. But, guys, it's time now for really the talking is done. It's time to put toe to leather, see who can tackle, who can catch, who can run, who can pass. All the talking is done, and the action will speak for itself.
It certainly will, Corn, and I think both of these coaches seem very boastful about their chances this year. I would say Dabo Swinney very, very confident about everything outside of the quarterback position. And, of course, Will Muschamp from South Carolina's perspective, confident about the parts of last year's team, namely the offensive line and the defense, taking the next step. I don't know how much I believe Muschamp on the latter, but when it comes to quarterback pro, I believe that if Kelly Bryant does not get it done, they have somebody amongst that stable of three that can.
Well, the thing I like about Clemson is they have two of the best lines of scrimmage in college football. And let's face it, Dabo is from Alabama, and that's Alabama's mantra, especially under Saban, because when you go to the championship game several years with three different quarterbacks, that tells you, well, wait a minute, what do they have that everybody else doesn't have? The best lines of scrimmage, and that's what Clemson has. So I don't think he's really worried about the quarterback right now when he's got those two lines of scrimmage in his pocket.
Well, Clemson does have a good line of scrimmage on both sides. Of course, we've talked about the defense, maybe the best defensive line in the country, though NC State would argue that their guys might form the best defensive line in the country. On the other side, the Clemson offensive line, all veterans. Everybody on that offensive line went through the crush of getting to the national championship and winning the national championship last year. So they are a veteran group as well with some quality backups. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. The receivers aren't going to be an issue. The running backs will wait and see. C.J. Fuller is the number one guy. We'll see if he is indeed worthy of that when they move into the stiffer competition. It all revolves around the quarterback this year at Clemson, and they've had such great quarterback play with Deshaun Watson for the most part the last 3 years. What is it going to be like with Kelly Bryant or somebody else? 800-956-7266, our number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. I was at Darlington earlier today, and the place looks great and is ready for the weekend of racing. And they had a couple of sessions of practice for the Monster Cup guys. Kyle Busch, the fastest in the second round of practice at 173.320. Kevin Harvick also over 173 miles an hour. Guys, the place looks great. If the weather holds up as it should on Sunday, we're going to have a great race at Darlington for the 68th Southern 500.
And I love the fact that they're going to have the turn back the clock paint schemes once again, Pro. I think that really is something that's a great thing to honor the tradition, and especially with the fact that they're going to honor the tradition not only with Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon getting their names basically etched for posterity there at the racetrack. It's going to be a fun weekend, I think, and it's always great when you see the circuit descend on the Palmetto State for that one weekend that is really one of the more special ones of the NASCAR season.
Well, as NASCAR has tried to stretch itself from shore to shore and has watered itself down, Darlington seems to me that one track that really brings back the memories when NASCAR racing was just a Southern thing.
There's a purity to it.
And it would not dare rain on Little E's last race at Darlington. It wouldn't dare.
Well, you know, the conspiracy theorist in me says Little E's going to win this race because it is his last one at Darlington, and it's particularly special. But watching his performance this year, there's nothing to indicate that he's going to win the race. I think everybody who is a NASCAR fan would love to see him do it, but there's just nothing that he has done here recently. The luck's been bad. The performance has been bad. They just have not been a good team this year. So you look on elsewhere, and it's a weekend where you've got 3 spots still open for the playoffs. There's going to be a lot of pressure on guys who are just above the cut line and just below the cut line trying to get in there. One more race to go next week at Richmond. So a lot of pressure on a lot of teams going into these last 2 weeks of the regular season in NASCAR. Should be a lot of fun. The track looked great today. It's grayed up, and you'll hear from Monty Dutton later, the full Monty on NASCAR, but it's exactly how you want it to be at Darlington because the racing is so much better when the tires go away and the race car is then in the hands of the driver and the skills of the driver come into play.
I think we should have a little bonus pick in our picks of the week if you get a little bonus point if you pick the winner of the race. No?
Yeah, you could do that. You could absolutely do that. Well, I've already said Matt Kenseth for me.
Okay, I have a guy in mind, but we can mull over that when we do our picks here at 7:20. But I got a guy in mind.
Okay, you can hang on to it if you want to. Yeah, we'll get to our picks here coming up. We have we're going to welcome in 2 more pickers to the group to the Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge. Both of them are affiliated with us via their stations, who are members of our network. Bobby Harton, the Big Kahuna from down in Charleston, and the bad boy of Sports Talk Radio, Alan Smothers from over in the Florence, Myrtle Beach area. They are going to test their ability to pick games against the spread. We don't do this the easy way. We just don't say, you know, pick a winner here because like everybody would pick Clemson to beat Kent State. But when you factor in the 39.5 points, then do you think Clemson is going to cover, or do you think Clemson is going to win by less than 39.5? It requires you to do a little bit more thinking about your picks, which is the way we like to do it.
I might have to leave, though, at some point in the midst of the show, though, Corn, because you said that I had to leave extra early to get up to Clemson for that first week because of all the traffic coming from our capital city up to Clemson.
Yeah, I think that'd be a wise move on your part.
Because you just want
he thinks I'm joking. He thinks he's going to waltz right in at 11:30 and pull right into his parking spot and be there in time for a kickoff.
The Red Sea is going to part to let my little car make its way up there.
You got to remember, you're driving up in the northwest corner of the state, and people are coming all the way from Charleston on down the coast to the upstate.
All right, we'll be back. David Shelton, a little high school football preview coming up. All right, it's Sports Talk here on a Friday night, South Carolina Radio Network. A reminder, we'll have our high school football scoreboards for you tonight beginning at 10 o'clock, 10, 10:30, and 11 o'clock. We'll have all the scores for you from across the state of South Carolina. And it is the night when we have the marquee matchup of the regular season, at least at this point, with Dutch Fork and Fort Dorchester, as we welcome in David Shelton of the High School Sports Report and the Charleston Post and Courier. Our high school report brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you could be saving a whole lot of money, even if you received a quote before. Rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. All right, David, it's the mega game of the regular season, at least at this point. Tell us about it. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it's the mega game for the first month of the season. You got the defending state champions in 5A in Dutch Fork, and the year before when it was still 4A, Fort Dorchester was a state champion. They played twice last year. Dutch Fork beat them both times, kind of convincingly. I give them the edge tonight. I'm not really sure why. Maybe just because it's at their place and they've never lost to Fort Dorchester. But Carry-On Joyner is a man on a mission. They do have skilled people. They are improved defensively. They're better than they were last year on defense from what I saw the other night when I watched them. Better linebackers and pretty good in the secondary. But Tom Knotts has got some magic working over there. I mean, their coaches do a great job preparing their team. Their players play well. Normally, they don't turn the ball over and they don't make a lot of mistakes, and that's where the difference in the game has been. The last two last year were turnovers. Fort Dorchester had turned the ball over. If they can play a clean game, I look for an exciting, down to the wire tight finish. But I like Dutch Fort just slightly, and but it would not be an upset. I know that Fort Dorchester is ranked number 2 and Dutch Fork's number 1. There would not be an upset. The only upset would be as if one team blew out the other.
Do you see a high-scoring game?
I see it get into the upper 20s, maybe the 30s. I mean, I think both teams will find some offense. Dutch Fork scored 34 and 49 last year, and Fort was over 20. So, I mean, I would suspect a 28-24 type game. But again, you got to factor in if it's raining the whole time or whatever. The turf, Fort Dorchester doesn't play on turf and Dutch Fork does. There's a lot of little factors that could play into that. But I kind of think it's going to be a 31-28, 28-24 type game. Just that's kind of what I feel.
All right. What else do you like around the state tonight?
Well, the game I'm at's going to be pretty cool. Somerville Berkeley, since 1960, they've played every year except 2009. They played, I did a story this week on them playing since 1951, and then some people reminded me and found out, hey, they played in 1924. And, Phil, you might have been at that game. I'm not sure, but I wasn't around in 1924.
I think Coach McKissick was probably there, but not me.
No, but I think it's going to be a cool game. And Somerville has some guys sitting out because of the fight with Spartanburg. And so they've got to find some players to step up. It's looking very ominous right now. I'm sitting in the parking lot. They haven't opened the gates because I think they want to keep people out of the stadium in case they have to clear it. But there is going to be a rumble of weather come through, but it's supposed to clear out pretty quick. And it's like just a cell, and then we'll have a good game. And I think Dillon and Latta, Phil, I think they're going to play Monday. I think they've already moved that game. There'll be some other games moved, I think, as we move along. Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of heavy weather moving through the state. What's the plan there if that game has to be delayed or postponed, do you know?
Yeah, they're going to play Monday. And I know Dutch Fork and Fort Dorchester will play Monday if for some reason they can't. I got a feeling that one's going to get off. And I think this one will get off too. I just don't know that we're going to meet our it might be meeting 11 o'clock deadline on the newspaper. Might be a little touchy today.
All right.
And you had a bunch of games played last night. The Irmo Chapin game was a really good game. That was one that we were looking forward to this week. And then the upstate, I mean, it's kind of in limbo. I mean, I'm hearing people are playing, but I mean, I heard there's some stuff going through there. So, again, it might be one of those nights where people just, may back off and play at 8:00 or, I know up in Myrtle Beach area, Carolina Forest and St. James, they kicked off. Well, they kicked off last night, but they finished the game starting at 5:00 today to try to beat the weather. So they're probably in the second half by now.
Game that was featured in your prep rundown on the Post and Courier website, Bishop England and St. John's. Of course, the Islanders are 2-0. Bishop England off a loss last week. How do you see that one faring?
Boy, you love Bishop England, don't you?
Well, who, me or
about Will? Will loves Bishop England. Last week his question was about Bishop England. He loves the Bishops.
I'm big on him.
And last week I was wrong. So this week I'm going to be right. I think they're going to beat St. John's, but I really think that's going to be an entertaining game. I think St. John's is as good as they've been in a while. They have, when they line up on the line of scrimmage, they look like they got some 4A, 5A looking guys. I mean, they got some size. Quarterback's a really good playmaker. I think Bishop England's going to beat them, but I think there are going to be some points in that game. Again, if the weather holds up and everything's nice, I think that could be a 40-30 type game. I would suspect.
Phil, you got your Lotta affiliation. I got to get Bishop England to send me some swag just because
Absolutely.
I'm all about it.
Hey, David, in 5A tonight, T.L. Hanna, 2-0, Boiling Springs, 1-0, both ranked. What do you think about that one?
This is going to be a good test for both teams, particularly Boiling Springs. I don't think their offense is quite where they want it to be yet. They weren't overpowering or they weren't quite impressive in the win over Ashley Ridge last week in overtime, but their defense was really good. And now that defense will get challenged tonight because this T.L. Hanna crowd, they're running that wing T option look, and which is new to them, but they've really taken to it very well. And Alex Meredith, who was kind of a drop back pocket guy, has turned into a wing T guy and performed very well. And, I think this Hanna team's for real. I mean, I think, defensively they're going to be okay because I don't think Boiling Springs is going to threaten them a whole lot offensively. So, and Boiling Springs has got a pretty good defense. So I kind of got a feeling that one's going to be a low scoring type game, a 21-14 type game. And it could be, both teams are ranked, but I think a lot of us on the media poll are still waiting to let this play out. I think Boiling Springs is ranked third, and I ranked them like 8. In my list, just because I want to see how they play tonight. But certainly, they're two very good teams, and two teams that'll be playing in November.
What'd you think of Irmo's win over Chapin last night? Is that sort of that first kind of breakthrough win for Reggie Kennedy in trying to move that program forward?
Yeah, without question. It's his third year, and they've struggled the last 2 years, and he's kept that mantra of year three, and this is year 3, and now he's 3-0. And Chapin is not the team they were a year ago, but they're still Chapin, and they're still pretty darn good. And Irmo needed a win like this to kind of solidify and validate what Reggie's trying to do. And high school football is so much about getting on a roll and playing with emotion and confidence. And I mean, who knows where this could take them? I mean, they could be a team that wins 7, 8, 9 games if they can continue this role. But that was a good win last night.
Yeah, I think it was come from behind as well. David, thank you, my man. Have a great night. Stay dry. Let's hopefully get your game in, and we'll look for you tonight on the scoreboards.
Okay, man. Y'all have a good show.
You too. Thank you, David Shelton, joining us, High School Sports Report and the Charleston Post and Courier. He's our bib, best in business, covering high school football. So how do you like the Bishop England's chances tonight there, Will, since you've now adopted them as your favorite team?
I think they bounce back. I know the Islanders. Yeah. The Islanders are 2-0. People are high on St. John's, but I like Bishop England's chances bouncing back tonight.
Okay. Great analysis. You just don't get that anywhere else in radio.
Oh, really? You're coming at me with that? Come on. We got to get them to send some stuff to me. We got to make that happen.
Hey, just make a phone call, man. They'll take care of you. Sure. All right, we're going to hit a break here. When we come back, we get to the real pros of picking games. We have our football filibuster with Governor Hodges and A.G. Wilson, and then Lee Sterling, the real pro, coming up here on Sports Talk. Don't go away. Well, we have waited a long, long time to hear that music once again here on Sports Talk. That means the football filibuster is back. Season, let's welcome in the godfather of the football filibuster, the creator, the genius behind this part of our show. One-time USC governor, I think he was number 116 in line, Jim Hodges. Governor, how are you?
Look, Phil, this is like the next season of Game of Thrones. It's that popular.
No question about it. Now, you know, Governor Beasley beat you up pretty good last year. Then he took off, and it was my plan to have Donald Trump in here to oppose you, but then he went and messed up and won the presidency, so that wiped him off. So we got the next best thing coming in. We've got Attorney General Alan Wilson from the great state of South Carolina as your competitor this year. Hey, Mr. AG, how are you?
Hey, it's great to be back, Corn. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure, a pleasure. I hope you've done your homework because I know Governor Hodges. Governor Hodges, what was your personal training camp like this year in getting ready for the season?
Oh, I put every one of the sports magazines out. I looked online. I think I'm ready. Had a really good preseason.
Real good preseason. Okay, you're full of data. How about you, Alan? How did you prepare for the season ahead and getting your information together? Did you do it yourself or get one of your aides to go back there and dig it all up for you?
Well, what I like to do is I like to blindfold a monkey and have him throw a dart at a spinning wheel, and whichever team he hits, that's who I call it for. No, I actually did what the governor did. I obviously read all the Vegas odds and predictions. I read the kind of who was coming back, who wasn't, and just kind of went with my gut.
Very good, very good. Well, let's get to it, guys. We've got 5 games for you, picking against the spread. These are all pretty tough contests, except for that Clemson game with Kent State. So let's begin with the last game of the Labor Day weekend, as far as the major college games are concerned. It's Tennessee against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. The Yellow Jackets are getting 3 points. Alan, we'll start with you as the relative newcomer. I know you have filled in from time to time, but now as the permanent compadre here against Governor Hodges. We'll let you lead off, and it is Tech getting 3 against Tennessee. What do you think?
Well, I was looking, 8 of Tennessee's top 9 tacklers from last season are back. Georgia Tech is starting a new quarterback and has lost its top running back, I believe I read the other day. But at the end of the day, you never know what's going to happen with the Butch Jones team. It's just a flip of the coin. But my gut is telling me that it's going to be a close game, but Georgia Tech's going to cover.
Georgia Tech. You want Georgia Tech with the points?
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Yes.
Georgia Tech with the points. Governor Hodges, it does sound like Alan's done his homework here. You're in a bit of trouble.
Oh, I know. I think he has, and that is certainly the logical pick, and that's why I'm going to pick Tennessee.
You want Tennessee?
I do. I think Butch Jones, his job is on the line this year, and they've had some pretty good recruiting seasons. So I think they're going to be a little too much early in the season for Georgia Tech.
All right, Tennessee for you, Georgia Tech for Alan. Let's go to Michigan and Florida, assuming Florida has enough players to dress out. Gators are getting 5 in this neutral site game. Alan, what do you think?
Well, Florida suspended 10 players, including its top running backs and a wide receiver, and they're starting a true freshman at quarterback. Now, they're playing in a neutral location, and I'm being kind of hard on the FCC right now, but I think Michigan can cover 5 points. So I'm calling Michigan to cover this and win.
The new big mouth of football, Jim Harbaugh, will have something else to scream about if he beats Florida. What do you think, Governor?
Big mouth, but a big game coach. I'm taking Harbaugh in Michigan. I think they're going to win this one by at least a touchdown.
All right. Both of you want the Wolverines. Let's go to this. Now, this one, I don't know. I've gone back and forth. Alabama, Florida State. The Seminoles are getting 7 here. And some people think Florida State's going to be in the national championship playoffs. Of course, Alabama as well. What do you think, Alan?
Listen, I got a lot of respect for both of these programs. This was a tough one. I went back and forth, but then I looked up the statistics, and Alabama is 10-0 in season openers under Saban, and 9-1 against the spread. And I'm just going to go with history, so I'm calling Alabama covering.
Everybody is scared to pick against the Crimson Tide, Governor. What about you?
They're playing in Tuscaloosa, right?
No, this is an
neutral site game.
Atlanta. Oh,
Yeah.
This is Atlanta game. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with Alan on this one. I just think that Saban is so good, particularly early in the season, in big games. It's hard to pick against him. So I'm going to pick Alabama.
Alabama it is for both of you. All right, let's get to the locals. Allen, Clemson, the defending national champions, until somebody knocks them off. 39.5 points they are laying to Kent State, home of Lou Holtz, home of Nick Saban, home of others, none of whom are going to be playing for them tomorrow. What do you think?
So there's absolutely no doubt that Clemson is going to destroy Kent State. I don't think anyone I've spoken to thinks otherwise. The question is, how big of a kill is it going to be? And I was looking last year when Kent State played Alabama, who was then the defending national champion. They lost 48-0 on a 44 spread, but they would have covered that spread had they not given up a touchdown on a punt return or had another touchdown called back deep inside territory. So I think Clemson's going to run away with this, but I think Kent State is going to have the ability to keep it within 40 points. So I think Kent can cover the spread, but not by much.
All right, you want the 39.5. That's a pretty good mountain to climb, though I think Clemson will try to run it up. What do you think, Governor Hodges?
I watched Kent State play last year. It looked like Lou Holtz was playing at age 80. That's bad. I'm going to take Clemson. They're awful. So I'm going to take Clemson.
Okay, you got them. I know that pains you, but you got them. All right, NC State and South Carolina. The Gamecocks are getting 5 here in Charlotte. Alan, what say you?
All right, well, here's the pro for Carolina. They got about 10 starters back on offense, I believe, led by Jake Bentley, and he's got all his top hits. He's got his top receivers. They have a total of 16 returning, some fresh talent. The offense, I understand, is going to be really good. Obviously, there's a big question mark over the defense, but Muschamp's a defensive-minded coach. The Wolfpack, however, is returning 17 starters with 9 on offense, 8 on defense. And the Gamecocks have been 2-10 in away games the last 2 seasons. That works against the Gamecocks. At the end of the day, though, my head tells me that Carolina's offense is going to help them cover the spread, but it remains to be seen if their defense can help them win the game. So I'm taking Carolina on the points for the spread.
You want the points. You're not sure they're going to win. Governor Hodges, what do you think?
I think that Carolina is going to win, and because NC State is always bad early in the season, and they lose games they shouldn't. And while from a talent level they might appear to be better, they're still NC State, which means they're going to lose. So I'll take the Gamecocks.
All right. I want to bring in the new co-host of the show. You guys haven't met him yet, Will Pelagic, and he can give a quick analysis of what you guys just did.
I kind of align a little bit with the governor on some of these just because I think that he's taking a little bit more of a conservative approach. I think Alan Wilson is not wasting any time. He's going very much, I would say, liberal with his picks, I would say.
Very deep.
Wow.
He's going very deep.
Jim Hodges.
Actually, it would be Governor Hodges who would be the liberal one of the two if you want to break it down in terms of how they got to where they are.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just talking about for the basis of their picks, I'm saying. I find it a little ironic in that regard.
Either one of you guys want to take a shot at spelling Pelagic?
Pelagic?
Get back to me next Friday.
Yeah, you do your homework on that.
You were pretty good in spelling it. Yeah.
We'll get back to both of you next week on that. Do your homework. Guys, thank you very much. We always appreciate you being with us. We're off and running. Governor Hodges, Attorney General Alan Wilson with us here. The football filibuster week 1 in the books. We'll see how they did. Be right back.
Need some insight for this weekend's games? Our Sterling picks are on the way. This is Sports Talk.
Well, we heard from the amateurs. It's now time to get our professional help. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com. Back with us for another championship season here on Sports Talk. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Ever since I saw you, everything's had a rough summer. Everything's turned around. Everything's coming up roses.
There you go. There you go. I gave you the magic touch. That's all it took. You pay for my breakfast?
Next week, we'll have the picture posted of my visit and our breakfast a couple weeks ago.
You pay for my breakfast, good things happen for you.
That's right.
That's how it works in this world. All right, let's get right into it because we got some good games.
You were the only one that took me up.
I know. I think that I forgot to tell everybody. I think I was going to hog it to myself. So
thanks for that, Corn. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You were new. Who needed to meet you? You were brand new.
You know what Phil did? He ordered 3 breakfasts to go.
See.
And I said I'm going to take it back to him. That's right.
I never saw that breakfast, Lee.
And he's wearing it right now, Lee.
Hey, tell people how they can get all the stuff that they need to get ready for the opening weekend of the colleges and then moving forward.
Yeah, we're off to a great start, and makes me feel relaxed. And then the 350, 400 hours I spent studying this summer, we won opening weekend. Week 0 went 2-1, 3-0 last night. You want to get involved for the season? Use coupon code SAVE250, save $250 on our season package. Let's say you're not ready to sign up for the season or don't have the full freight. How about this? We have a 9-game super pack for Saturday. 9 games, just $97. As soon as you purchase it, window pops open, all 9 games. 9 games, $97, ParamountSports.com.
All right, let's check out a few of the big ones. Let's begin with Michigan and Florida. This is a neutral site game. The Gators have had some issues. What do you think?
Well, Urban Meyer's not coaching this team, or else they'd have no suspensions.
True.
had to take the shot there.
Boom, boom.
Overlook a lot of transgressions, but I think this game is interesting from the fact that what you see now is not what you're going to see in midseason with both of these two teams. The only suspension I think that surprised Florida was Jordan Scarlett, but they got a lot of depth at running back. I like both of their defensive ends, C.C. Jefferson and Jabari Zuniga. I think these two guys will have big games getting after the quarterback, it looks like, who will be Wilton Spade here. I like Florida. I think the wrong team's favorite. I think they pull off the small upset here, 23-20.
I've been back and forth on this one, Lee. Bama -7 against Florida State, neutral site contest in Atlanta. I'm tempted to go Florida State. What say you?
Well, when you look at Alabama, there'll be some changes this year. They're going to go more up-tempo, new offensive coordinator. If you look at and saw what happened with Ohio State, took them a half to figure it out. It might take Bama a half or 3 quarters. Now, I think they're going to bury some bad teams this year. Teams like Ole Miss, who they play later on. If you add in a couple extra possessions, I mean, they can win that game something like 61-10. But against Florida State, when you have more possessions, if you watched both championship games, and I watched them again in the fourth quarter, the Bama defense, I mean, they were absolutely gassed. So they only returned 5 starters on defense. Yeah, Bo Scarborough and wide receiver Calvin Ridley, supreme talents. I think they'll both be drafted maybe in the first 10 picks of the draft when they come out. But Jalen Hurts, just like J.T. Barrett, good runner, not a great passer, turnover prone. I think Florida State, with an experienced quarterback and 10 returning starters on defense, I think they get the job done. I'm going to call for the upset here. The wrong team is favored, guys. Florida State upsets Alabama 27-24.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm on that bandwagon with you. When we get to our picks, I think you'll see that. All right, Clemson, do they cover against Kent State? Is that line too much for this new quarterback?
Well, I think it might be, and I think Clemson's defense is great. Kelly Bryant, I think they're going to break him in slowly. They want to build the confidence with him here. Also, you got to remember Auburn and Louisville are on deck here. Watch Bryant. He needs to improve on his accuracy. So this might be a second half play. Maybe you watch the first half and play the second half. Also, Kent quarterback Holly, not a great passer, but very mobile. Almost 1,000 rushing yards last year and also 10 touchdowns rushing. So he might scamper for a couple first downs, keep the drives alive here. The dog is also 13-4 against the spread the last 17 Tiger games. I have Clemson winning 45-8. Can't they stay under the number?
It's interesting going into this game between South Carolina and NC State. There are a variety of different ways to look at it. You can see around 4 or 5 on the line, depending on where you shop for it. How do you feel about this neutral site game in Charlotte?
Yeah, it is interesting. A lot of money is being played on this game in Vegas. In fact, it's the 5th most played game. I was checking with one of the sportsbook managers, and people just can't figure out what's going on here. My take in this game here is South Carolina's offense will be much improved with quarterback Jake Bentley, Rico Dowdle, top 5 wide receivers from last year returning. The problem here is their defense, not much depth or athleticism. Also, the special teams, a lot of people forget about that. They have to replace the punter, kicker, and long snapper here. North Carolina State 7-6 last year, but I think they'll be improved. I have them winning 8 or 9 games this year. The key is they need to push the ball down the field early in games, not wait until they're trailing in games. I think Ryan Finley will be improved this year. I like State here in this game, 28-20.
All right. Yep. And your game of the week, interesting. You picked Georgia and Appalachian State for your game of the week.
Yeah, we're going to find out. Georgia, I think a lot of people gave them a pass last year. They need to have a big season this year for Kirby Smart, or else the heat will start being applied to him. Appalachian State return a nice quarterback and have a real nice supporting cast around him. So we're going to find out if this line is short, or can Appalachian State pull the possible stunner. You want to get it for free. First 10 callers get Georgia and Appalachian State. Just call 800-400-9741. It's going to be another great year for us. We're on a roll to start the year. 9 games, just $97. ParamountSports.com.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We look forward to talking to you again next weekend. That is our professional help, Lee Sterling, with us here on Sports Talk. All right, little recruiting before we hit the top of the hour break in football news. Defensive back Israel Mukuamu, Bossier City, Louisiana, still looking at other official visits despite being committed to Florida State. He tells us he's going to perhaps visit USC for the Kentucky weekend. That's the game he's looking at there. For Florida State, it's going to be the Louisville game. He also plans officials to Georgia, Louisville, and Indiana. All those schools continue to recruit him hard, and he said that he's still committed to Florida State. It's going to be tough to turn him. Quarterback Cordell Littlejohn of Roswell, Georgia, who drew some USC interest early in recruiting, committed to Illinois. 2019 defensive back Akil Pauling of Ben Lippen plans to be at Clemson tomorrow. And USC offered 2019 wide receiver DeMarco Helms of Hyattsville, Maryland. All right, that's what we have for you here on the football side of things. Basketball-wise, there'll be some folks taking some official visits over the weekend that we have been following. We'll keep an eye on that as the weekend progresses, as things start to really ramp up with the basketball recruiting and official visits and all of that. USC and Clemson, as they get into their home football games, they'll start to have some of these basketball guys coming in for official visits as well. And we'll let you know about that as they pop up. The top of the hour break is coming up. And on the other side, we'll have our update on the golf scene as they continue with the playoffs on the PGA Tour. George Bryan III will join us. Got a little bit from Dale Earnhardt at Darlington today. We'll give you our picks for the weekend, the full Monty on NASCAR. Lots to come. Hour number 2 on this Friday edition of Sports Talk.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Thanks again to the Sports Talk Orchestra for sounding so good all week long. They have really picked up their game. And you know what? They're excited about everything that's going on. We got football. We got the college season getting underway. We got big high school games. We've got Yankees-Red Sox game 2 at the stadium tonight.
Corn.
Yankees going for a second straight win. We've got Darlington, Bojangles Southern 500. We've got the golf playoffs. So much going on as we welcome in for a little bogey and birdies around the state of South Carolina and beyond. Somebody who is so happy the football season's here. That means there's more room on the fairways of South Carolina on Saturday. It's George Bryan III. How are you, sir?
Oh, I couldn't be better. And this call is from Foxborough, not TPC, Boston, where the golf tournament is being played. Just right beside it. And this is what the New England Patriots, they play football. And I'm celebrating right here with them. A guy named Jack Easterby, beautiful family, are hosting us. And so, yes, I'm celebrating football during the playoffs of golf.
You couldn't get Belichick on course with you there, GB?
You know, today, I'm just learning today is what they call around here, it's Tough Friday. And that means they're cutting football players, whatever you call downsizing the rosters. A little bit like usually Friday on the PGA Tour is cut day. But it'll be Saturday, and a little different for me. But I did eat lunch with Dustin Johnson, and he is on a tear. On a tear. And this golf course, he made it look very easy today, but it is beautifully brutal. Despite what he's got.
Dustin, a 5-under 66. Kyle Stanley, the former Clemson star, 4-under 67. He's in a group at 4-under with Sergio Garcia and others. So Kyle Stanley, boy, I tell you what, George, Kyle is really a yo-yo kind of player. And by that I mean sometimes he is way up and real hot and posting some great scores, and then there's other times you just don't see him.
Well, what he does, and this is just, I didn't watch him play today, but when he is on, he hits his lines, and that's what happened apparently today. Kyle enjoys the game, and he plays aggressively. When there's not a shot he can't hit, and you know that's a lot the way Dustin plays, and that's why they're so much fun to watch. And hey, isn't it cool to see South Carolina? And I mean, Kyle spent several years at Clemson, then Dustin, Coastal Carolina. I mean, South Carolina is fastly becoming a reference to the world map. I mean, the world golf map. It's cool.
Yeah. Let me give you the others from the state. Russell Henley, a 1-under 70 for him. Bill McGirt, the same, 1-under 70. Lucas Glover, even par 71. Bill Haas, a 71. Kevin Kisner, 72. Scott Brown, a 74 plus 3. Wesley, 76 plus 5. Kind of had his struggles today.
You know, he didn't handle the putter quite like he normally does. He missed a couple of up and downs. He still got tomorrow. He's still really good. Really good. The golf course is just extremely difficult. And I have to tell you that we are being hosted by Jack Easterby. I'm going to shift gears. Now, the significant thing about Jack Easterby is he's an assistant GM for the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack was a two-sport athlete at Newberry. He played both golf and basketball. And so his wife, Holly, and his children, Harriet and Houston, well, they're hosting us, and I'm right here. We're grilling out. In fact, Wesley and Jack, we're doing the grilling. But, I mean, South Carolina is the center of our sports world, in my opinion, Phil Cornbluth.
Interestingly enough, George, a guy who's 2 back, Jason Duffner, has had kind of an up and down year. He didn't do well at the majors. He did win the Memorial, but it's been a bit of an EKG for him. How do you feel about his chances come the weekend?
This is the perfect golf course for Jason Duffner. And I saw him after the round. I didn't. His demeanor is he seems like he's in a good place. His golf game, this is a ball striker's golf course. I think John Rahm was playing strong. I was having trouble. My internet's moving slow. If he finished it off, he was a couple under.
Yeah, he's 4 under.
Yeah, John Rahm, this is his kind of golf course. Sergio, I saw he was playing well. And the golf course on TV, you don't see the elevation. You don't see the edges, the rounded knolls and knobs. And so I have watched it for years. This is really pretty cool to see it in person. There's some there are bends and valleys you don't quite see on TV. It's extremely difficult, but these guys are making it look easy. This is that time of year.
Yeah, they always do. Now, listen, you may not know this. Jack Easterby is a good friend of my family. You tell him that I said hello. We go way back. My daughter and Jack were good friends at Spring Valley High School, so I know Jack's basketball game. I know his golf game too, and I wouldn't want to try to touch him in either one, because in basketball he could shoot it high, and in golf he could shoot it low. Now let me ask you this real quick before we let you go. So we as far as making it to the tournament next week, what are they cutting down to after this event in Boston?
70. They go 70. And our South Carolina players, at least the ones I looked at, got 1 or 2 on the bubble, but obviously Dustin's in great shape. Dustin is my favorite. After my conversation with him at lunch, he is in go mode and things are good. And incidentally, most of what we talked about was his commitment to what he's doing right now. And that is, he trains hard. He's as dedicated as any of the world-class athletes I've ever spoken with. And he talked specifically. I said, "How often are you in the gym?" He looked at me as if that was the stupidest question I could ask. It was like, "Aren't you sitting right here?" And he was eating like a champion. He had salad with chicken, and he says, "Every day, Mr. Bryan, every day."
Well, he's got his brother with him, who was a great athlete in high school, and they kind of push each other, don't they? And I guess the brother is pushing him to do the right things health-wise and workout-wise.
Hey, I made comment. I said, Austin's looking good. He goes, Mr. Bryan, Austin's he's in better shape than I am. Now, that could be a brother. That could be a brother kind of lifting up another, but Austin, I've been right beside both of them. They are in beautiful shape. Dustin actually referenced the nutrition. He said Austin might be a little more disciplined than he is. And I got to tell you, it's not just these 2 athletes. These athletes on the PGA Tour are committed to taking care of themselves. They're in the gym. They're eating correctly. And it's a lot of fun for me to see.
Well, listen, good luck to everybody up there over the weekend. And on Monday, hopefully the South Carolinians will do extremely well. Wesley, by my looking at the PGA Tour website, looks like he's 38th in the FedEx Cup standings after today's round. So he's in good shape. So just pull him on through and get him on to the next round.
Hey, he's in good shape. Wesley's in good shape. Don't count him out. He'll move on to Chicago, and you just never can tell. You just
all right, my man.
I'm gonna tell Easterbees you said hello, Phil.
Do that. Tell him we said hey, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Good evening.
See you, buddy. All right, GB3, George Bryan III with us from up in he said Foxborough, up in the Boston area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Foxborough is nowhere
to the South Carolinians.
Foxborough is nowhere close to Boston. It's closer to Providence, Rhode Island. But
how far is it from Boston?
It's a couple hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's about as close as Charlotte is to here.
Okay. All right, we'll hit a break here on Sports Talk. We've got our picks coming up for you next. You want to hear this. You want to hear what we, the experts, have to think about the top games that we're following this weekend. That's coming up in a moment. All right, Sports Talk Friday night edition. Phil Kornblutz, Professor Tom Hayes, Will Pelagic, as we head into the football weekend. By the way, I had mentioned during recruiting that some guys were taking official visits this weekend. I wanted to run all this down before I mention it. USC target 6'9" Manny Bates of Fayetteville, North Carolina, is visiting Georgetown this weekend. Another USC target, 6'7" Jimmy Nichols of Conway, is going to visit Providence and probably swing by Foxborough on his way up there at Providence.
Sure.
Since they're not far apart. How far is Foxborough from Boston?
About 22 miles.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad.
As the crow flies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Manzi Ngwemezi from Savannah, 6'7", Clemson target, visiting Georgia this weekend. And that's it. Those are the basketball guys we're following who are taking visits this weekend. Now, the most important moments of the week, because you've heard from many others, but you haven't heard from us. Our Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge, the panel of experts led by yours truly, also joined by the Pro and by Will and by Matt the Newsman, by Kevin Cohen of our station in Columbia, The Point Radio, who is he the reigning champion? Who won last year? I can't remember. I wiped the slate clean.
I think
Anybody
it was
remember?
Kevin. I think it was Kevin.
I quickly
Kevin
wiped the
followed
slate
closely
clean.
by Jarmart.
Jarmart will not be participating this year. Do you want to tell them why you're not participating this year, Jarmart?
No.
You want to go ahead and break the news to the state, or
Well,
you don't want to
Jarmart
ruin
is taking
people's
a
weekends?
hiatus. I'm going to be living on an island for the rest of my days. I will still get some select college football games, but sadly, it's not going to be reliable enough to make picks.
Okay, good. Bobby
the
Harton, the big kahuna from Charleston. He owns the Charleston market from 3 to 6, and then we own it from 6 to 8. The big kahuna, and then the man who owns the PD. He's in the morning. We own it at night. The bad boy of Sports Talk Radio, Alan Smothers. That's the panel. It's a good one. Let's see what everybody's got. Let's begin with Tennessee and Georgia Tech. And it looks like as a group, we're kind of split. I've got Tennessee laying the 3. Pro, you've got Tennessee. Will, you took Georgia Tech. You want to explain yourself?
I did, because I am down on Tennessee, and I think that the reasoning behind taking Georgia Tech is that anytime you see a school that has an option look, I don't care if they have a week to prepare for it. I don't care if they have 7-8 months to prepare for it. It's always difficult to prepare for right off the bat. I like Georgia Tech in this one. And again, I think the hype train is left for Tennessee. So much was put into their preseason picks the last couple of years. And now I'm saying they drop like a millstone. It starts here.
Is this the beginning of the end for Butcheroo?
I think so. I was never a believer in him, to be brutally honest. Yeah. I'm not saying he's Derek Dooley bad, but I'm saying that there was way too much put in his positive column before he even did anything.
All right, Matt and Kev Cohen take Tennessee. The big kahuna takes Tennessee, and the bad boy is taking Georgia Tech. So actually, it's more one-sided towards Tennessee than I first glanced at. Michigan and Florida, looking across the line here, everybody is taking Michigan here except for you, Pro. Now, you do realize Florida is minus at least 10 players.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're taking the Gators because of what? You think Steve Spurrier's coaching them?
They're actually minus 2 players because those other players were just camp bodies. I think just Florida being down there and in the state, I think they can beat Michigan. Michigan does not impress me. They just do not impress me.
Interesting.
All right. So you like Florida getting the 5 points. Everybody else is going with the Wolverines. Alabama, Florida State. Boy, this is tough. I'm surprised the line's as big as it is. Vegas has a lot of respect for Alabama, no question. Laying 7 points, the Tide are. And looking across the board here, I've got the Seminoles. Pro does. Will does. And so does the bad boy. Matt the Newsman, Kev Cohen, and the Big Kahuna are taking Alabama.
That number's too big, Corn.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're not giving Florida State enough credit for having a very talented quarterback. I know he got racked up a good bit last year, and this defense from Alabama can ruin your day.
Florida State brings
Florida State a little more credit with they got running backs, receivers, and their defense is pretty doggone good.
They return almost the far majority of their tackles on defense, and they have a quarterback in DeAndre Francois that really impressed as a freshman. He's a dual threat guy. I think that we saw last year in the national championship game that a dual threat quarterback like a Deshaun Watson, not saying that he's on the same level as Francois, but a dual threat quarterback can disrupt Alabama's timing on defense and their pursuit levels. I think Florida State keeps this a lot closer than Vegas. I don't have them down for an outright win, but I know it's going to be closer than 7.
There are two things, even though I picked Florida State, two things that scare me about Florida State. They're athletic on defense, but we saw, for instance, in the North Carolina game last year, they got a guy guys who like to freelance on defense.
True.
And they got caught out of spots they should have been in, and North Carolina was burned them late. Francois is another guy that refuses to pull the pin on the hand grenade. He'll hold the football to the last minute. And Alabama, if you do that against them, you have guys coming in there for kill shots.
True.
So you have to keep this guy upright and tell him to go down or throw the ball away before those big Bama guys can get to him.
Well, I think having Derwin James back at safety it will be huge for Florida State.
True.
He's going to make up for a lot of those players being in the wrong spot, and he'll make sure, I'm sure the guys are lined up right, but if somebody breaks free, he's going to be there to clean them up. So I think that's big for Florida State as well. Okay, now to the locals. Kent State and Clemson, the Tigers laying 39.5. And Pro, you like the points, as does Matt, the newsman, Kev Cohen, and the bad boy. You guys all want the points. So does that, I mean, do you not think that the Clemson offense can crank it out against the Kent State people?
No, because I think what I want to see from Clemson is the big play element still there from the forward pass. You knew when Deshaun Watson was playing that they were going to hit you with a lightning bolt. I'm not sure that lightning bolt is going to be there early. So I think they'll still win by about 30, 35 points, but not the 40.
My thoughts are simple. Kent State is trash. Go Clemson. Minus the 39.5.
What kind of game do you think, I mean, in terms of the numbers, what kind of game do you think Kelly Bryant will put up?
I'm not even sure it matters, honestly. I think
I think it's going to matter to the Clemson people. I mean, they want to see him throw for 250,
but I'm saying
300 yards.
I'm saying we might see more of a multifaceted quarterback attack because they want to get as much film. They want to get as much film on him as possible, on Zara Cooper and on Hunter Johnson, in my opinion.
All right. And we go to NC State and South Carolina. Gamecocks getting 5 in Charlotte. And I'm taking the Gamecocks and the points, as is Pro, as is Kevin Cohen, as is the Big Kahuna. The Big Kahuna will pick the Gamecocks every game. And Allen will always pick NC State because he loves NC State. I think he's a alum of NC State. He's always going to pick the Wolfpack. So, Will, you're taking State and the points. So, I mean, you think the Gamecocks will you think NC State is going to just cover or beat the Gamecocks straight up?
I think NC State's getting 5. So I think, in my opinion, I like NC State to win it outright. I'm not sold on this defense from South Carolina, and I'm still not sold until I see it on the offensive line's ability to make this team multifaceted. I'm afraid that Jake Bentley becomes one-dimensional, and he might have to throw it a lot, and that's going to eat right into what NC State does defensively.
All right, let's hit the phones very quickly, and we're going to go to, I heard Brady from Columbia. Brady, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Really quick, Brady. We've got less than a minute.
Okay, first is Florida State's going to get pounded, guys. You can't name their best receiver, Phil. Name a receiver they got that's a difference maker. Can't name one. Not on State, sorry. Their offensive line gave up 34 sacks last year. So Francois got killed. Guys, their defense was not very good last year. They got talent. It's Florida State. I agree. They're not ready for this, y'all.
All right, we shall see. And I'll name you a receiver when we come back from the break, Brady. You know it's Florida State. They've got personnel. There's no question about that. Back in a moment.
The latest on this weekend's race is around the corner. The full Monty on NASCAR is next. This is Sports Talk.
It is time to talk NASCAR on this Friday night here on Sports Talk, and we are the center of the NASCAR universe here at Darlington. I was at Darlington earlier today, got a chance to see some of the first round of practice, got a chance to see the newly named Earnhardt Towers and everything else that they have done differently at Darlington as we welcome in for the full Monty on NASCAR, Monty Dutton, who has spent a day or two at the Old Lady in Black, and she's never looked better, Monty. She looks great. She looks cleaned up. Some new organization taking place around the track, and now you've got the Earnhardt brand on the towers going into Turn 3.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because Darlington is a special place to me. It's where my dad took me to the racetrack when I was a little boy. And I remember that I was the unhappiest kid in South Carolina because I had to go to the spring race every year because the Southern 500 was on Labor Day, and I had to practice football.
And look where that got you.
Yeah. A lifetime of scribbling about men playing little boys' games.
Well, we talk about it, so it's all the same. I was listening to NASCAR radio this afternoon, and the Throwback Weekend, this is number 3, and this thing has really caught on, and the folks on NASCAR radio, and, of course, that is their livelihood day in and day out, they really love it. They are really excited about it once again. This thing has caught hold, and it has really given Darlington another piece of identification on the circuit.
It really is nice. I've been sort of watching practice more or less for to catch a glimpse at what all the cars look like. What really enables that is that one of many, many things that have changed about NASCAR in the last 30 years is that many of the cars aren't painted anymore. They're basically wrapped in plastic. And that's because there's few sponsors for the whole year. So it's a much easier matter to decorate a car for a one-time race. But there's a good mix, by the way, of sort of ornate ones and ones that have sort of a beautiful simplicity, like Chase Elliott driving the really spare, light, almost robin's egg blue car that his father debuted in. Although it would look better if he was switching to 9 for this weekend instead of next year. But,
yeah,
you got a Keselowski, a car that looks like Rusty Wallace's old Miller Genuine Draft look. And you have Richard Petty, not the Richard Petty Motors, Amarola in a Petty car that's like the 200 Victory car. And even down to the miracle winner of last week's Xfinity race in Wisconsin, Spartanburg's Jeremy Clements. He's driving in the Xfinity race tomorrow. He's driving a car that looks like the one that his grandfather was a crew chief for, that A.J. Foyt won in the summertime race at Daytona in 1964. Now, this car is a Chevy and that one's a Dodge, but we're not going to let the facts get in the way too much.
It's funny, Monty, that dichotomy exists. Kyle Busch had the fastest time, at least in the final practice on Friday, despite the fact that he did spin out. It appeared to not hit the wall, which is a good thing for him. That means no need for a backup car. What makes his driving style so great for this racetrack?
Well, I'm not sure it's the absolute best because Kyle Busch is a driver who will excite you because of his ability, just like on that spin. He spun out but managed not to keep the car out of the wall, which is very hard to do at Darlington. But I think that Kyle Busch is a driver, the ideal driver at Darlington, David Pearson, Jeff Gordon, is a driver who is smooth. And Kyle Busch is not smooth. But Dale Earnhardt won 9 races at Darlington, and he wasn't smooth either. So I think Kyle Busch is just it's virtuosity. He's good anywhere, but Darlington's the toughest. And so, but I'm saying it really isn't ideal for him because he has a tendency to, hang it out too much, and that can be dangerous at Darlington.
visiting with Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR here on Sports Talk. It's Labor Day weekend. It's racing at Darlington. 13 sets of tires being provided for each team by Goodyear. There is some concern if that's going to be enough. And when you get down to the end of the race, especially considering the last stage is 167 laps, the strategy and how the tires are going to be used there at the very end will become very important.
Well, Darlington is at its best when that's the way it is. When they repaved it a few years ago, it made the tires more durable, and I think the quality of the racing deteriorated just a little bit. The master of Darlington is the driver who has the knack to run consistent times and not wear his tires out. Rockingham, that used to be the truth there too. And so, Darlington is a place where you go out there and you show everybody, you impress everybody and pass 5 or 6 cars in a few laps. And then all of a sudden everybody's passing you because you've worn your tires out. And so Darlington is sort of Darlington is a place that rewards people that pay attention to what's going on. It's a place where sometimes you can put a stopwatch on the car that's running in 12th or 13th place, and you'll discover he's the fastest on the track. Sometimes you can tell somebody's going to win at Darlington when he's way back in the pack if you pay close attention. So that's a really that's the biggest subplot of the race, and the fact that the track is wearing out again. The worst thing for racing is brand new pavement at a racetrack. Is a sign that there's going to be a real good race Sunday night.
We've seen a lot of fast times from Kevin Harvick. We've seen some from Denny Hamlin as well. Who has your eye? I know it's hard to answer without knowing the starting grid before Saturday's qualifying, but who has your eye this weekend?
Well, it's down to 2 races for Joey Logano, who has a victory at Richmond, where the last regular season race is, but his car was found to not be legal or to have stretched the rules too much. And that is what is today known as an encumbered finish, which to me is a stupid name. But anyway, he can't get in the playoffs because of that win. And he's not in a position to get in the playoffs with anything but a win. And it really amazes me that 16 people are in the playoffs, and yet there's going to be somebody who's really important who is not. And that could be obviously Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's not in a good position. And it could be Joey Logano, who almost won the championship and has done real well and has become one of the top tier. So, I guess eventually it's going to be like the NCAA tournament. There's going to be, 36 teams or something like that, because it doesn't seem like they can make it big enough that all the big stars are in it. But it's desperation time for Logano, and I'll be watching him closely.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the Lakers, the Celtics, they miss the playoffs sometimes. The Yankees, the Dodgers, the big names, sometimes in the team sports, they don't make the postseason either. It's just how it is that particular year. But, we've got 3 spots that are still open with 2 races to go, and I think this is good. I think this is what NASCAR wants with this playoff system, because it really gives you something else to talk about besides just the individual race.
Well, it certainly is an interesting aspect, because the dynamic changes, because if there's a first-time winner, then that makes it where there's only 2 spots to make it by points. And so if you think you're in good shape and somebody else, like who hasn't won a race this year, all of a sudden race back out again. So it's going to, with a little luck, it'll come down to the last few laps at Richmond, and everybody will be wringing their hands and wondering about what might have been. But I think you're right. I think it's a pretty dynamic situation going to these last 2 races.
All right, Monty. Listen, as always, we thank you. I know it's a busy Labor Day for you with football and the race. We thank you for sharing some of it with us, and we will catch up with you next week as we go to Richmond for the last regular season race and then on to the playoffs. We thank you much.
I appreciate you having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR here on Sports Talk. We'll be back in a moment. All right, coming up, some comments from Dale Earnhardt Jr. as he makes his final appearance at Darlington. But quickly, we welcome in Bob Iback for a final pitch about a tremendous opportunity to get your hands on a terrific football to keep as a keepsake or maybe to give as a gift, featuring one Deshaun Watson. Bob?
Hey, good evening, folks, and it's nice to be with you again. Yeah, the big game starts tomorrow, the kickoff of the season, and I'm very excited about seeing college football again. I had a chance to see that interesting Indiana-Ohio State game last night. That was a tale of two different halves if everybody was watching that one on TV. But I know with Clemson getting ready to open up tomorrow against Kent State, we've been talking about this week, a special limited edition football that we have. Only 2017 of these Rawlings footballs are going to be made with a display case to raise money for Dabo Swinney's foundation that he and his wife began. It's called Dabo's All-In Team Foundation. And these are priced at just $99. You get the football and the display case. And in a moment, I'll give out a toll-free number to the website, how you can still get this football, because I mentioned it was limited edition, only 2017. We have about 900 of them left coming into tonight, so we're a little over halfway sold out already. And what you'll get on the football, they're full-size. They come with a numbered certificate of authenticity, I should point out. One of the panels commemorates both of the Tigers' national titles, the one in 1981 and, of course, the one last year. And it's got some individual statistics and notations about each of those two different titles and how they were won with the opponents, some of the information and scores and so forth. Then we have a full-color panoramic photograph of Clemson Stadium taken last year on game day on a beautiful sun-drenched autumn day. And that stretches from one side of the panel to the other in the one of the lower panels of the football. And then right there in the center is a special tribute section to Deshaun Watson. Just a great quarterback. Last 2 years got Clemson into the title game and won it last year. And some of the information, highlights from his career, are put on that part of the football. So it's a very exclusive football. It's officially licensed, and you get it in plenty of time to use it for a Christmas or holiday gift idea. It'll be sent to you in about 6 to 7 weeks. And if you'd like to go ahead and help out Coach Swinney's foundation called Dabo's All-In Team Foundation, which benefits some special needs children. They have a section in there that breast cancer awareness. They also have a little section that impacts drug and alcohol addiction and some more programs in addition to those three that I just mentioned. You can call this evening, a toll-free number to order these footballs. It's 1-800-345-2868. Again, that's 1-800-345-2868, or simply go to NICOsports.com, and that's spelled NIKCO sports.com. And I know that I'm very interested in seeing just how Kelly Bryant, the starting quarterback, gets through the first game playing against Kent State, and then you got a week from now, you got the big game against Auburn. So it should be an interesting debut, first couple of games for the Tigers.
All right, Bob, thank you, man. We appreciate you bringing that to our attention throughout the week. Good luck with the rest of the sales. We'll be talking to you again soon.
Okay, and Phil and Will and Tom, you guys have a terrific and safe holiday weekend, and we'll catch you down the road.
Thank you, Bob.
You too. Thank you. Bob Iback from Chicago. And again, it's another terrific product that he has brought our way. The number to call to order, 800-345-2868. Go to the website at www.nicosports.com, NIKCO sports.com. All right. Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his last appearance at Darlington. He's never won, unlike his dad, of course, who's one of the all-time dominant drivers there. Today, they unveiled new naming for the towers in the third turn, big red buildings that you see there. They are now the Earnhardt Towers, named for Dale and Dale Jr. Dale Jr. talks about that, plus his thoughts on racing at Darlington one more time.
You know, I think that Dad would be incredibly proud to have something like that done in his name, and you know, my association with it, it certainly makes me proud as well. And you know, my sister took a lot of pride in it, and came up here today to be a part of that. She drove up here this morning to be here for an hour and a half to drive back home to Charlotte. So that tells you what it meant to her. All those kind of things are certainly very new to me. I've never, never been in a situation where anything like that's been done in my name, but I've seen it happen to my father quite a bit over the last, decade. And I love that there's things. I love when anything happens that helps people take a moment to remember him, recognize him, honor him. That was one of the first things I thought of when he passed away was, man, I hope that nobody ever forgets who this man was. And Darlington and the sport does a really good job of making sure that's never going to happen. So it means a lot to me. I didn't realize, how hard this track was. I was here when Lake Speed won and spent, I was here when all through the 80s came to all the races. And I didn't realize how hard this track was. They had a lot of nicknames for it, and they would comment and talk about how difficult it was. But you can't understand that until you go around it and try to, go around in competition. And I was telling Greg, we were just a minute ago, we were standing in the garage watching the last few minutes of practice wind down, and I was watching that big screen, and Keselowski was out there running. And I told Greg, I said, you watch that car go around that track on the big screen, you can't tell, but it's hell in there. And he's got his hands full. And it doesn't visually come across from watching the cars, but this place, there's no harder oval to get around, to set a car up for. And there's not a track that I know of where the car makes such a dramatic change over the particular, 10, 15, 20, 30 laps over a tire run. The car just goes bonkers as the tires are starting to get ate up.
Our Dale Earnhardt Jr., his comments today from Darlington. Guys, I had a chance to I'm usually, of course, down in the infield media center, or down in the infield down near Pit Road. Today I went up into the Pearson Tower, which sits high atop the fourth turn, heading down towards the home stretch, and climbed up in there. I wanted to see what it looked like from over there. I hadn't been over there in a lot of years, and man, it's amazing what the track looks like from that angle, especially if you sit up in the bleachers and can see the whole track. My point is, it's a great place to watch the race. You can see everything happening. You see the cars going into going into three, coming around, going out of four, and heading down the front stretch. It's a great view from there at the Pearson Tower. I expect we're going to have a packed house on Sunday. Weather should be great, and we're going to have a great race.
Well, the big question is, can you see the turn where they have the mysterious debris call every time you have that race?
That's on all four turns.
By the way, Corn, I did want to pass along. We are getting a couple of lightning delays across the state of South Carolina with these high school games. Even my bishops are befooled on that. We have that one has been delayed till about 8 o'clock. So my bishops aren't kicking off. I know.
I do hate that. How about the soccer game? USC Clemson playing soccer, first athletic competition of the season between the two.
Still no score. Still no score.
Anybody taking a shot yet?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that yet.
Yeah, Clemson just had a good run, and the keeper blocked him. He wanted a penalty, but he did not get it. That would have been a penalty kick in the box, but none of that, and they continue playing as normal.
Okay, well, that's going to do it. I hear some funky music playing. I guess that means we're running out of time for this week. Enjoy the football games. Enjoy the race.
I'll call
we'll
you
be back with you on Monday night.
Denny Hamlin.
All about it.
I'll call you if I get lost on the way back from Clemson.
I'm picking Denny Hamlin.
I got.
There's some Gamecock fans who could give you some really exact directions on how to get to Clemson, but I won't say that over the
air. I got. I'm taking Kyle Busch this weekend. That's my pick.
Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch. Okay.
He won 2 weeks
never
ago.
Win there.
He's not going to win two in a row, is he?
It's Matt Kenseth. It's Matt Kenseth's time. I want to remind everybody, too, make sure you follow Will at Clemson on Twitter, the NC State game, SportsTalkSC.com, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC.com. I'll be at the USC NC State game. Follow there as well. And, of course, our post-game coverage on the website. We'll both be doing post-game Periscopes live, so you can communicate with us and ask questions about what was said afterwards, and of course our stories on our website as well, SportsTalkSC.com. And Pro will be watching from his easy chair. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday.